president prime minister style administration or a commander-in-chief general on the ground kind of administration, where I have a strong and competent bureaucrat in Des Moines who's overseeing the day-to-day implementation of government while I'm out in the 99 counties engaging Iowans on what we need to do to fix the state. Now that's essential because we already know that the politicians of Des Moines either can't or won't fix things on their own. Some of them can't, some of them won't. But we also know that they're vulnerable and susceptible to political pressure. So once we have a strong administrator in place, we then change the management structure within departments to ensure that the vision and mission aligns with the actual implementation. Now, I'll use the Department of Human Services as an example because it's the largest bureaucracy in state government for the most part. From Reagan to Obama, from Branstad to Culver, from Chuck Palmer to Charlie Krogmeyer, they've said we want to reduce welfare. These are all the people who have the power, sign the checks, make the decisions. The people at the bottom have grown welfare under every one of those administrations, Republican or Democrat. Because there's no alignment between the mission and vision and implementation. Now, most people, when they appoint department heads, they may appoint a mental health person to head up DHS, or they appoint an early childhood advocate to head education. And they get in and they work on their particular area of interest. But they don't have the faintest idea how to run the other 9 or 10 functions within their department. So you find strong administrators that can focus on things like operational integrity. The head of DHS shouldn't be someone who's a mental health expert or an early childhood advocate. They should be someone that who understands that. That's mine. I'm sorry. I don't know if you want to turn that off.
It's all right. Just shut the door.
But the head of DHS should be someone who can examine operational plans to ensure that the person who's in charge of the food stamp program isn't growing the food stamp program, but is working to get people from welfare to work. Or someone that can look at budgets and spending patterns and say, why have we printed 50,000 copies of documents we subsequently destroyed and reprinted 472 times? And so this person begins creating operational efficiencies. And then the people with task-specific expertise are at the division and bureau level. So that's the first thing. We have to change the management structure. There are 3 other things that go along with that. And I've talked about doing these right away. The first is that we need to institute a time and motion study. Every department, division, bureau, program, we need to ask, is it necessary? What's the outcome? What's the expectations? But with our staff, we need to institute a time and motion study from February 1st, 2011 to May 31st, 2011. We basically document what they do, how they do it, what the impact is, because we're going to surgically reduce the size of state government, and we're going to eliminate the waste. There are state employees that don't have the faintest idea what they're supposed to do. I know because I've talked to them. I talked to one bureau chief who said they brought in consultants to look at what we were doing. The consultant said there are 13 things that ineffective organizations do. We were doing 12 of them. We've never once been told how to fix those things. So the time and motion study will help us to determine actual efficiency within the workforce, in addition to a department by department, division by division, practice by practice examination. An example of the kind of wasteful practices, and these are areas a governor doesn't need permission to fix. We call an ambulance in Des Moines to go to Fort Dodge, to take an inmate past Fort Dodge to Iowa City. The ambulance comes back to Des Moines, goes back to Iowa City, goes back to Fort Dodge, and comes back to Des Moines. Because somebody doesn't want to take that money out of their budget. A governor can fix that without permission from the legislature. So there's at least a $500 million to $1 billion of reforms that can be instituted by a governor that doesn't require any legislative permission. The second thing is realignment, and that's where we begin realigning departments, divisions. We align, criminal justice planning now goes in the criminal justice line. Lottery and racing and gaming get consolidated into a division of gambling. We start realigning the way we do our commissions. Now, on the side of the actual government bureaucracy, there are three critical components: how we structure it, how we staff it, and how we resource it. But on the policy engine, which are the boards and commissions, typically what we've done is we've structured them so that they consist of people we're rewarding. So when you look at the parole board, and I use that one because if you understand the impact of recidivism on our economy and budget, it's an important board. 4 of those individuals are appointed from Polk County. Governors Branstad and Culver never understood that the commissions existed to actually be bipartisan, solution-oriented policy engines. They've seen them as a way to reward political supporters. I know I was appointed to a board by Branstad and became a chair of a commission. But not once did they say, this is the vision that we have for state government. I held statewide education and health hearings years ago, including in Davenport. Not once did the administration say, and they had staff practically working for me, this is the governor's vision. So we need to actually make those board and commissions work. Under a Narcisse administration, 1/3 of the boards will consist of people with genuine passion for an area, education, health, or whatever. 1/3 will exist of people with knowledge and expertise that understand data and systems. And 1/3 will be people who can actually get results and get things done. These are the 3 critical components to leadership, whether they're a political party or whether they're a political movement or whether they're a bureaucracy. Just like, let's say you formed I'm running on the Iowa party ticket. I like to say Branstad's a Republican, Culver's a Democrat, I'm an Iowan, okay? Now, if we become a sustained party, 1/3 of our leadership ought to be people genuinely concerned about our state. But 1/3 of our people ought to be people who actually know what they're talking about. And then 1/3 of the people ought to be actually people who can get things done and get results. So whether it's a business, a political movement, or a bureaucracy making policy, those 3 elements are critical. 2 other things in terms of realignment we address, and my website's Narcisse for Iowa, and if you like what I'm saying so far, support me.
Okay, I've already read this, so.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Are you going to support me?
I'm liking what I'm hearing, sure.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks.
We'll see you.
Now, the administrative rule process has to be revised. As a chair of a commission, I learned this. Legislators don't read, and the governor's office doesn't either. Here's typically how legislation works. You're a legislator, and I'm the governor. So you give me what you want, and I say, okay, I'll sign off on this if you sign off on this, that's how it works. People don't have the faintest idea what they're passing or signing. It's based on, if you give me what I want, I'll give you what you want. I will have someone that will read every piece of legislation, every administrative rule, and we will use the veto pen. In fact, in my mind, I actually have one of those grinding wheels you use when you're sharpening the axe for turkeys. Okay, that's the image I have in my mind. But I'm a kinder, gentler Jonathan. So actually, I just have a giant inkwell the size of like a barrel, okay, that I dip the veto pen in. Okay, I mean that sucker is gonna be full all the time because no. And you fix a lot of government by that. We also need to look at the Iowa Code. There are laws that say if you cross the street on Wednesday, you're going to jail, and if you don't cross the street on Wednesday, you're going to jail. And we need to examine every piece of our code and simplify it and fix it. The final area of realignment are the courts. The courts were out of control before the April 3rd decision.
April 3rd decision of what?
The marriage decision.
Okay.
They were out of control long before then. An example I use is the appointment of Judge Borth up in Clay County. Here's a guy who prosecuted people he defended, or defended people he prosecuted, depending upon how you want to look at it. He also reduced charges if you would write checks to his causes. He was disciplined by the lawyer disciplinary folks, and he still got appointed to the bench. Now, the Missouri plan was created in '62 as a merit-based system. So we have a nominating process, and then the governor picks from those folks. We need good people on the nominating committee. We need to give the governor a little more flexibility. But what I actually support is putting a citizen ratification component in there. Now, we don't need to go back to the time when the person with the most cousins in the county elected judges. But the fact is that when we went to the Missouri plan, we basically sold the courts to the big law firms, the Bar Association, and trial lawyers. So by going to a citizen ratification process, no judge would ever take the bench without the citizens actually ratifying.